Islands bearing the gift and coming to you live from New York City. It's Late Night with Joemetheus. And now, here's your host, Joemetheus. Good evening. Ladies and gentlemen, before we begin, I must warn you that tonight's program contains frightening imagery, graphic language, and touches on sensitive issues that children or those with weaker constitutions may find disturbing. I know that you're all probably going to watch it anyway, but it needed to be said. Growing up, I always had this idea in my head that I didn't like horror, that spooky stuff just wasn't my thing, that creepy things were barking up the wrong alley for me, and so on. And yes, there were reasons for that. For instance, I was an enormous scaredy cat with tons of irrational fears, total baby about it. Too scared to go into Halloween stores, there's monsters in the ceiling, would not go on amusement park rides, what if it breaks? There was a period for a few years where I would refuse to ride elevators. My default response to everyday life was shrieking in terror like a chimpanzee. It's much different now, though. I don't shriek about it. Not out loud, anyway. Some fears were justified. I'd argue my fear of insects is well-earned. I had some traumatic experiences involving insects, like having a live moth stuck into my ear canal for 12 hours. Wings flapping away against my eardrum. I still hear them sometimes, feel them, the loud, droning buzz. Or the time when I woke up for a 3 a.m. chug of cool, refreshing water while living in our roach-infested trailer, only to spit everything out onto the carpet as I got a mouthful of swimming buggy legs instead. Or perhaps when I was stung repeatedly by a colony of Africanized killer bees that had built a nest in the couch in the alley behind our house that our neighbor had thrown out. I remember locking myself in my father's pickup truck and watching with him in terror as they swarmed an unsuspecting bird that had landed on our roof, stinging it repeatedly as it tried to fly away, before it collapsed to the ground, writhing around and finally dying. But those are all stories for another day. Point is, scary cat. Even with all this in mind, as an adult, I really don't know what I was thinking, because frankly, in a much bigger sense, I grew up obsessed with horror. Spooky stuff was my thing. Creepy things had been right up my tree the entire time, and I never even noted till I did. Horror has been a mainstay in my life, from my earliest memories. And my love for it has continued to grow and change over the years, maturing like a fine cask of Amontillado or a nice Chianti. From goosebumps and scary stories to tell in the dark, to collecting Stephen King's entire works in hardcover, from reading Simpsons Treehouse of Horror comics to the works of Junji Ito, sifting through Garbage Pail Kids cards to exploring the SCP universe, from dressing up as slasher icons on Halloween every year, to just kind of staying in and watching horror movies or doing whatever, cause doing something for Halloween requires having friends. Through it all, I feel I've come to appreciate horror on a more molecular level. All the tricks and secrets that horror writers and directors play to make their writing more effective. From the masterpieces that perfectly utilize their tools, to the flops that try their hardest and kind of suck but are amazing to watch anyhow. As the years have passed, my more irrational fears have melted away. I take elevators, I love roller coasters, I still hate insects. They're gross, but for the most part, they have been replaced with a more adult variety of fears. Run-of-the-mill minutia like financial and existential dread, and a lion's share of depression and mental illness. And yet, through it all, my love of horror, as a genre, still stands, stronger than ever. Horror movies, horror novels, horror games, horror manga, creepypasta, short horror films, analog horror, and other creepy videos. If it's spooky scary, you can bet that I've at least checked it out. And as somebody who considers themselves to have a reasonably respectable horror palette. You can believe me when I tell you this. Five Nights at Freddy's, Pfeffernuss, 17, Bulgaria, Blow, Barn, Bing Bowl, Bobbity-Doo, Bing Bom, Bobbity, Dang, Dang. I'm sorry. I think I might be dead. Yes, I do believe that shall do it.